Computer.
Awesome. Welcome in everyone to 10K Movies, the unofficial official start here with the boys here. I'm your host Ryan, joined by Tommy and JD. Fellas, how we doing?
How we doing, fellas?
Couldn't be better.
Doing good. Yeah. So, obviously this is a movie podcast called 10K Movies. We have a running list of movies that we've rated and finding averages there and looking to get to 10K or more. And yeah, we're going to be talking about at least one each week, but chopping it up a little bit before the show here, before we started to record. Tommy, I know you had some takes that you wanted to get off your chest.
I do. And I know this is a movie show, maybe pop culture. I don't know. We can
A little
bridge
bit of everything.
that far, but I know we're all huge NFL fans, and I've got a question for you guys, which is the new Jordan versus LeBron GOAT debate. It's just as hot too. Do we pay Daniel Jones? That's the question everybody's been asking, and it's honestly been weighing on me. I wanted to get your guys' opinion because
Pay the man.
hey, the man. Well, he's asking for what, like 50 million
Something like that.
for his
I think
new
like, yeah,
agent?
40 a year or whatever.
Do you pay him?
What's your alternative? I think you pay him, you get him like one option on the outside, maybe a good tight end, and you keep Saquon back there. You get yourself a complete offense. Let him work.
Well, how do they pay both?
They'll find the money.
Franchise tag, Saquon.
Yeah.
I think I think he's a serviceable guy. I don't know if he's worth 40 and up a year personally, but I'm a Bears fan, so I can't really talk too much on it because I mean we haven't had a quarterback. Maybe now we do, but for my whole lifetime. So I don't know. I mean, they're tough to come by. So even if you do decent one like him, I mean, I think you kind of got to hold on to him. And they're in as far as I know, they don't have like a super top pick because they were in the playoffs. So I don't know. It's tough, but that's a lot of money. So I don't know. I personally wouldn't. I just kind of roll the dice, dabble. If he can get what he got out of him, he could probably get that out with anyone. So that's my opinion.
I think if you get a new guy, well, depending who you get, if you get someone on free agency, you try to draft someone or whatever, you're back to rebuilding and they're back to where they were like 4 years ago when they were horrible. And at least Danny
Mm-hmm.
Jones has shown he can win games. Like, I mean, he's not going to go out there and just put up 40 every week. Like, we get that. But at the same time, I think he's shown he can win. And he runs well, which I like out of quarterbacks because the Colts never get them.
I think that is like, dude. I think that's so tough. Like, because also you have to look at like, is what is the Giants' window? Like, obviously they have Saquon. They have a good defense and they have a really good D line, but like, are they really built for a Super Bowl? And like, is Daniel Jones going to get them there? I just feel like that ties up a lot of their resources with him if you're paying him a ton and if it's long term. So I'm also biased. I'm a Titans fan. I saw the Titans do Tannehill, and the Titans are in like purgatory right now. Like they have nothing going on, like in a good way.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I see both sides because you also see like you really need a quarterback to win. I mean, Mahomes just won his second in like 6 seasons. Hurts went to his first Super Bowl. Like you need like Burrow's been to literally two AFC championships in 2 years that he was healthy. So like I think you need a quarterback. Like that's kind of like the prerequisite. But I don't know. I think the Giants are kind of weird in a weird spot because like they're good
They
enough.
also don't have like any receivers. Like
No, they have no receivers.
Nobody.
they're missing a lot of other gaps too. That's the thing.
Right.
If he was like the last piece or whatever, then yeah, sure. But like they have a lot of other shit to figure out.
Right. And I think I don't know. They might be more. I think they're more than one piece. I think he's good. I mean, he's like you said, JD. He's got wheels. I mean, he can
He
act.
does, yeah.
But I
Put
don't
it
know.
this way: would you rather have him or Derek Carr? Because he's available.
Correct. He's very available.
Yeah, how cheap are you getting Derek Carr?
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
was
it'll be
gonna
cheaper than Danny Jones, but
Would it though?
apples to oranges.
it's close.
I think he. Yeah.
Look, the Giants, if they can win a Super Bowl with Eli Manning twice, they could do it once with Danny Jones, and I will stay on this hill.
And the NFC is kind of weak. So
Yeah, you need one
yeah,
good playoff run. Yeah. And yeah, their division by itself. I mean,
they
they got
did
the
win a playoff
Eagles.
game too. I mean, he won
Yeah.
them.
On the
I mean, I
road,
don't know if it was all him, but I mean, they won.
he played really really well in that game
He
too.
He did,
And
yeah.
the
So,
Cowboys seem to be kind of falling apart. The Redskins stay there, or sorry, the Commanders stay the Commanders.
Yeah.
And so you're really only battling the Eagles, which I mean, take your loss, maybe split it, and you're making the playoffs.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're in a good spot for the wild card.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they won't come out of the East for a while, but
No, probably not. The Eagles are pretty set
yeah.
for a while, but yeah, I just had to get that off my chest. I don't have an answer, so I know I'm playing. I'm on the fence. I mean, we could talk about
Both
this for
sides.
2 hours. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
it's not that probably entertaining for our listeners, so we won't. But
Well, we'll put a
back,
pin in that and
yeah,
revisit as more news
maybe
comes
we'll just
out.
do that every week. We'll tease
Yeah.
a little
Daniel Jones watch.
round table. Yeah.
Yeah. Something else that we were talking about. I know it's a new project that JD introduced for us that I know I've been having a lot of fun with. I think we've all been enjoying it. Kind of in the music world, JD, if you want to give the people a little sneak peek what we've been doing the past like month.
Yeah, so it's pretty easy. Every week we listen to the top 100 Billboard of a certain year. Starts in 19, what would you say? 1970 was the first, or 1971 was the first year, but the week of February 19th to the 25th, we're on 1978. And yeah, we just choose our favorites and discuss what we like most about the year.
It's kind of
Yeah,
like a little time capsule situation where we're like working our way
Yeah.
to present day.
exactly. And I think at least I am. I think we kind of all are just picking one favorite song from each year, kind of like making a running list of it to kind of revisit it after the year like a time capsule. I think that's a great way to put it. We're kind of opening it earlier than you would a regular time capsule, but nonetheless, it's been a blast. Just to give you guys a peek of what happened or what came out in 78, I think we can all like share our favorite here. My personally was Life's Been Good by Joe Walsh. Just looking at the song, I didn't think I've ever heard it, but then once I listened to it, I was like, oh yeah, I love the song. I had no idea it came out that year, so it's pretty cool just to like kind of hear songs and where they came out because there's a lot of them that are like familiar favorites, but never knew when they came out.
Yeah, I also love that song. Life's been good. I think we all kind of talked about it. 78 was hard to say a weak year because like everybody has different taste, but for our taste in general, I think there were like five, in my opinion, there were five heavy hitters. I went with Turn to Stone by a band that I know JD and I both love, which is Electric Lights Orchestra. So I
ELOA.
love that song. I think it's awesome. It got the nod for me.
Awesome.
Uh, kind of was in between two, but I'm gonna choose one. All right, so I'll tell you. The first one that I didn't choose, but it was a close second, was the Grease theme song because
I
I
figured. I
love
know
that
you love
movie.
Grease. Yeah.
I love that movie. Grew up watching that when I was young. When you watch it now, and I don't know why my parents let me watch that when I was 8, but but that lost to Don't Look Back by Boston, pretty much because Boston's like
That was
one of
pretty
my
cool.
favorite albums, or not album, bands. Pretty dominant in the 70s as well. But yeah, I really like that song.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think there were two Grease songs, wasn't there? That made the list
Yeah, I
or
forget what the
the
other one
charts, I guess.
was.
I think it was
Yeah. I thought
oh
Grease Lightning was gonna be on there, but
yeah, I forget what the second one was. But yeah, I was
you're
like,
the
oh
one I want.
JD's yeah, that's it. But yeah, I was like, I know
Yeah.
JD's gonna have a tough time with that one. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, I mean, like you said, Tom, I think we maybe all agreed it was our least favorite of the ones that we've had so far. I think that's the fifth one that we've started listening to. So but yeah, I mean, just like all of them, there's always like, you know, a good amount that are like star studded ones. So
I also think
yeah.
when we first started, we had like, it's a novelty, it's a new thing we're doing, so we had more excitement for it. And now that we're in like year 5 or whatever, it's not as exciting to hear those songs that I really don't care about.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I will listen to every song.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not
I
our,
give it I give it like 30 seconds and then if I'm not feeling it, I'm like, all right, I got
Yeah.
a ton more to get to.
yeah, yeah. No, I totally agree. Well, I'm excited. I'm excited to hear the evolution. Almost in the 80s, fellas. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
different
So
different vibe.
for sure. So for those listening at home, if you want to, jump on the bandwagon, we're going to be doing 79 starting next week. And yeah, so on and so on. So feel free to join us on the journey.
Looking forward to it.
Awesome. And then, similarly, obviously, haven't talked too much about movies yet, but again, we are a movie show here. So kind of similar to the song situation, we're going to be picking a movie every week. So we'll have a week to watch it, and then obviously we'll review it the following one. So this time it was my turn to pick. So I chose Birdman, which came out in 2014.
14.
I believe it won an Oscar for Best Picture, or at least nominated. I don't know if it won or not. I can't find it, but I know it was nominated. And I remember seeing it. I was like, "Oh, it looks interesting." Like the cast was great, but yeah, it just didn't really. At that time, I mean, we were seniors in high school, so it was, not the, I guess, like blockbuster type movie that would come out. But oh yeah, so 12 Years a Slave won the Oscar that year actually, but it was a contender. So yeah, for those of you that don't know what it is, just to give a quick synopsis here, courtesy of IMDb. Birdman is about a washed-up superhero actor attempts to revive his fading career by writing, directing, and starring in a Broadway production. Pretty broad there, but it stars Michael Keaton as the main character. It's got Edward Norton, Emma Stone, Zach Galifianakis. Those are like the top performers there. But personally, yeah, to give just kind of my quick thoughts and score here on Birdman, I liked it a lot. I can see why it was for sure nominated for Best Picture. It kind of fits that mold, I guess, that they are kind of looking for, I feel like, for the most part. I thought the acting was unbelievable. That was probably my favorite part of the whole movie, honestly. But yeah, so strong performances. I like the plot a good amount. I thought it was good, flowed well. It had like interesting kind of elements in there. But score out of 100, I would give Birdman an 86. Is where it rings in for me. So I think Tommy, if you want to give your quick thoughts and score as well.
Yeah, no, those are some really good points, and I think initial takeaways watching this was like I'm excited to like unpack this one when we talk about it. I feel like every time we dive deep into a movie, I feel like I understand it a little bit better. Talking to you guys, I need to understand this one a little bit better. So I liked it. I think same thing. I think that it was a pretty star-studded cast. Um, Michael Keaton crushes it. I thought Edward Norton's character was really, really good too. I think, like you said, the acting kind of stood out from like the character he was playing, as well as like the character's character on the Broadway, and kind of the give and take there. Emma Stone, I believe, was one of the female leads, as well as Zach Galifianakis, kind of in his heyday. So I came in a little bit lower. I did enjoy it. I definitely thought it was a good quality watch. It was a unique story. We don't see this. This hasn't been recycled 100 times, at least to my knowledge. So obviously, I always kind of give some points to those unique stories. So I am lower though. I gave this a 72. So we've got a decent range there. I know sometimes I tend to go a little high, but
I know you're usually our top performer, but
yeah, I'm strict nowadays.
yeah, change your ways. All right, JD, how about you? What do you think about it?
I was all right. I'm in between you guys. I was closer to Ryan. For similar points, I really like the writing, the range of acting, the cast in general, and like Tom was also saying, it's kind of a novel story idea. It's always gets little bonus points. But I came in at an 84. I really enjoyed this movie. And it's definitely a movie I'm gonna watch again.
Yeah,
I'll hold the rest of my thoughts for as we unpack.
for sure. Yeah. So yeah, pretty close. Obviously, me and you, JD, but Tom, I mean, even I think we all are kind of in agreement. Like anything around like 70 and above, I think we would recommend to at least see, right? At least that's how I kind of view it. But yeah, I think that's a strong average of about an 80. So that's a great start. So yeah, I mean, just to kind of get into it and talk about it from kind of just how it plays out. So as the synopsis says, right? So Michael Keaton's obviously the main character. He's going through, I don't know if I would say like a midlife crisis, but just like towards the tail end of his career, acting career. And he was like a comic book, well, I guess like a made up comic book, but superhero like star. So now he's, kind of gone to the theater route and not only acting in his own play, but directing and writing it. So kind of like an ego thing there, it seemed like, to where he's like, well, if I can't act, or if you think I'm like washed up or whatever, like watch this, I can do it all, kind of thing. Yeah, I mean that was kind of cool to see, just that whole dynamic, and then obviously like as more characters introduced and everything, seems to kind of go off the rails a bit when Edward Norton's character gets introduced, because he fills in for the guy that Michael Keaton hated as an actor. But yeah, what'd you guys kind of think of just like that opening synopsis, and kind of how that played out with that switch of casting there?
Yeah, I think that was, I mean, definitely pivotal, because I think Edward Norton's character brought a ton of energy like off the bat, and I think it's like you said, I think it's interesting just overall, because it was like, I think one of the big themes was like battling with relevance. Being like this super hero, literally, and the superstar basically of Hollywood, to wanting to stay relevant, wanting to stay in the limelight and remembered. And I think I think even like right before that scene, he's listing like all these like A-listers.
Yeah.
Damn, get
Yeah.
that. It's like you're like Riggin, like your name doesn't really
Yeah.
hold the weight it once did when you were a fucking bird. So
Birdman, yeah. Birdman Jr.
I thought that was like obviously crucial with like just the way the whole dynamic, like Edward Norton's character with his kind of, we start to see some of his issues play out, being like a superstar of like the Broadway world, of like theater world. And, he kind of thinks Reagan's like a hack too, which seems is a big thing. Like the theater crowd thinks, Reagan's kind of like a hack because he's, I think the equivalent of like, not necessarily Robert Downey Jr., but like of our era, a guy playing like Iron Man, and like 20 years later trying to take on a big scale, play like this. So I think that boosted their credibility a ton. And obviously there was some like egos there, but I think that was like a pivotal point in like the actual show inside the show, like the actual Broadway play.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. Also, like Mike Shiner, Ed Norton, he
Yeah.
he came in with a ball of energy to say the least.
Yeah.
I really like that they got him. And not to get too much into like my thoughts the whole thing. I mean, I don't know how deep we're diving here,
No,
but
yeah,
like,
dive as deep as you
okay,
want.
so like
Head
Tom
first.
says, he was an actor. 20 years ago he's a celebrity. Like, is there any like metaphor here for literally Michael Keaton? Did Batman in the 80s
No,
kind
that's
of,
what I was thinking.
That
Yeah.
clicked
yeah.
to me afterwards. I was like, oh shit, he played Batman. And
Literally the whole time I was watching, I was like, this is literally just Michael Keaton's life story. Well, not
Yeah.
obviously he didn't write, direct, and all this, but he did nothing. Well, I want to say nothing, just not that many big movies from like the 90s till pretty much this came out. Then right after this, he gets The Founder, Spotlight. He's in the newest Spider-Man or whatever, the Homecoming. So like his career kind of took off again after this came out. And then also in this, he's shown he can write and direct. But like, I also kind of took it as all those characters were also in a lull in their career. Ed Norton, Emma Stone,
Yep.
kinda, Zach Galifianakis, but they're all showing their range that they can still act. Zach Galifianakis being like a serious like lawyer, whatever he was kind of different because he kind of was known
Yeah.
for like The Hangover. But I loved like the whole. I mean, I think they meant to do that on purpose, but I loved it.
I think so too. Like Bat and Bird. I mean, that's
Yeah,
like
I mean, like, come on, it's
damn
gotta
near.
be.
That's what I was thinking too. But yeah, like you said, because I honestly thought of it more so with Edward Norton, especially,
Yeah.
because like he had a great run early in his career too, and then like I don't even think he was in like anything. Like I
No.
thought he was like retired, like unofficially kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I thought he was like, I mean, he's kind of a jerk in the movie, but like he killed it, I think, as just like his performance. I think everyone did, but he was probably my favorite performance, I would say, from it.
I agree.
I would also say his character kind of showed the most range. Well, I mean, because like at times he's real dramatic, sometimes he's like showing love, sometimes he's showing like times he's like vulnerable. Not to get too much into it, but then he's also showing like he's hammered and like on set and he's doing like some wild stuff and like so he was kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
I think so too. I'm glad you guys brought that up early because like the whole Michael Keaton thing, and I actually didn't think about that, JD, like the aftermath, because like we've seen Michael Keaton in some pretty big leading
Yeah.
roles in the last 10 years since this movie. Hard to believe this movie came out almost 10 years ago, but
Yeah.
um, I think that was pretty interesting. And I was trying to think of it like I don't know, the character he reminded me of honestly was Rick Dalton. From
Oh yeah. In
Hollywood
Once Upon a Time. Yeah.
Okay.
to a degree. Like I think this story was pretty interesting because like we've seen actors like do Broadway. Like I remember Bryan Cranston took on like a huge Broadway role a couple years ago, but like that was on pushing his comfort zone on like the tales of being Walter White. So like he was up higher than he's ever been, and I think like that was a completely different instance where like in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Rick Dalton was he was like a star of like westerns, but he probably wasn't as big of a star as Riggin in Birdman.
And Birdman,
And I think
yeah.
it's like I was trying to kind of gauge where like Riggins' level was because I kind of like that they kept that a little bit open. Like, all we know is that this is like a superhero movie from like the 80s or 90s. We have no context for like how big of a superstar he was. He infers it a little bit, but it's like you're kind of left wondering like, is he completely washed up? Is he like pretty washed up? Like, was he even a huge name to begin with? Like, how big of a name was he? So I think he was kind of, in my opinion, I'm assuming he's kind of like a B-list type guy, um, and he's really just trying to push the comfort zone to show he can do all this, and he's like a real actor. But you obviously see at the end, he's like got that balance of like just be Birdman. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to be something you're not. Literally just be this superhero, and that's what you're good at. And like you were better than all these people because a million people saw you like on the screen as opposed to 800 people in this theater or whatever. So I thought that was like the main thing I was trying to think of is like trying to gauge where he would be in terms of like people that we know now. If that
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I think yeah, kind of what you said, like high B like range, because I mean, like compare them, and I did like how you called out like when they actually said like real names of like real actors when they're like trying to get them to be replacements. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't compare him to like I don't know who's like the biggest, like Leo, for example. I would say like, one step down from that or whatever is kind of what I pictured at least. But like everyone still knows him for sure. But it seemed like he was like kind of pigeonholed, obviously, in just the Birdman role.
Would it be above your boy Justin Long?
Yeah, I think he beats him out. That's another thing we were talking about before, that I'm a big Justin Long guy. Because we were talking about a movie that we saw recently that he was in. But he's one of those guys. He said if you see him, he's like an actor or famous, but you don't know his name. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I think what's his Riggin in that is above that for sure, but below like the top of the top.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
I don't know because you don't know if like Birdman's like because like we have all seen Entourage where it's like
Yeah,
Vinny Chase plays
Queens Boulevard.
he plays certain roles of I think he does like an Aquaman or something. And
He
it's
did, yeah, with James
how
Cameron. I
huge
love
it
that.
is. Like, does it have a? Because like they talk about it on here, like Birdman, I think had 1 and 2 and maybe 3, and like the big thing was if you wanted to do a fourth, and it was
Yeah.
kind of that point where it's like you could tell based on that it was like okay, this is kind of like the same role over and over again. Like it's
yeah.
not stretching his like artistic ability. But he would have made money, and I think the big thing with Riggin is like image a little bit. Like it shows you like he worked really hard. He wasn't really around much. Like as a dad, like we talk about the Emma Stone character, his daughter, who's obviously like in and out of rehab, and
Mm-hmm.
so I think that's a big thing for him is like image. He talked about like his Beverly Hills house, and like he ends up putting like everything on the line. So I think it's kind of this balance of like does he want to be an artist or does he want to be relevant? That's like kind of that last scene with Birdman where like the Birdman is talking to him of like, dude, fuck this. Like, just put on the suit and like people will see you on screen versus the harder route where it's like, he's trying to earn these like really tough, theater critics acclaim. He's trying to put up the money for it, write it, direct it, kind of in over his head. So I thought that was pretty interesting, like the balance of that, where he's like trying to push his comfort zone, but also he kind of just wants to take the easy route and still be kind of have his name kind of talk around town a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jay.
Oh, I was just saying, yeah, like you said, it's a battle for relevance, and I'm sure a big part of his lull for a long time in his career, obviously in the movie, was they see him as Birdman, they're like, all right, he can wear a cape, but can he actually act? Type thing. And then it's almost like being typecast, but only for he's literally Birdman. He can only be Birdman.
Mhm.
And actually, who I could see being like that in like 20 years, which I hope, well, I'll never forget him, but Daniel Radcliffe, because he kind of goes off and does these own movies, but like he's always going to be Harry Potter, like no matter how you look at it. So I could see that in like 10, 15 years. Although I think they said they're redoing The Cursed Child now as a movie, and they brought Rupert Grint, Emma Watson, and Daniel Radcliffe back. So we'll see
Oh,
how that goes. I mean, it's rumored. I don't know if it's actually announced, but I don't know if you guys read The Cursed Child either, or like the screenplay.
I did the spark notes of it.
Yeah.
Wasn't a huge fan of it, but
Yeah, it's definitely a weird read because it's supposed to be like a play or whatever. But
mhm.
yeah, but either way, like he kind of does these weird, like not weird, I mean, just movies that you can tell he's kind of doing for himself, but they're not exactly blockbusters. So I could literally see Daniel Radcliffe, like people in 10 years be like, all right, he's Harry Potter, but like he can't actually act.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a good comparison for sure. That's why, yeah, because I mean, I guess I don't know if we want to jump to the end right now, but I think yeah, it was kind of, I mean, just to reiterate it, but it was like that internal struggle quite literally because he has like that second personality of the actual Birdman, the bird costume, which was pretty funny, I thought. But just that like that's like his inner ego, right? Thinking like, oh, like you're so much better than all these people, like you don't have to do all this and everything, but he wants to like prove whether it's to himself or others people like, he's not just a bird. But yeah, I think that is kind of illuminated at the end for sure of how that plays out. But I don't know if we want to get there yet. But another thing I wanted to touch on that I I like, but also kind of wanted more of is that relationship with him and Emma Stone, because that kind of remind me. I don't know if you guys have seen Steve Jobs, that movie, the good one. There's two of them.
Right.
The
Yeah.
one with
One with
Ashton Kutcher?
yeah, no, not
Yeah.
that one.
Okay.
The other one with Fassbender, I think.
Michael
Michael
Fassbender.
Yeah.
or Fassbender, yeah. Because that reminded me a lot of that and their relationship, like kind of like an absent father there. I mean, his daughter, she was way younger and didn't have a drug problem, as far as I remember that movie. But I like that dynamic, but I wanted kind of more there, and it did hit a little bit in that one scene. I don't know where they were. I think they were like at the theater, but like in the underground room or something.
Yeah, it was like costume or
Um,
something.
The dressing
yeah,
room.
yeah. And when they like going at it, that was like maybe my favorite scene because that kind of came out of nowhere, I felt like. And that was great. And then obviously like he goes and I think that's when he like goes and gets drunk after that on his own. And then he like falls asleep on the stairs. But I love that scene and I like their like relationship and everything. I just kind of wanted a little bit more personally. I don't know if I like knocked it because of that, but I thought that was really cool. But I also like, how it was a lot of the time just kind of him and the bird. Because that's really where like, that was like the root of the movie, I guess, and point of it. But I don't know. What did you guys think of like their relationship and I guess how that branched out to like Zach Galifianakis too, because he was like kind of his best friend, seemed like.
Yeah, I was thinking about it when you said that. Like, I feel like there's actually like a lot of avenues it could go because it could like with his ex-wife, like that seemed pretty
Yeah,
interesting. Like,
Holly.
there's yeah, Holly, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Another recognizable face, but I think it's I think it's interesting, like just movies versus like say reading a book. Not to go back to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but I read that book, and it's like so much more in depth. Like you get to see like what Rick is thinking every second. What it's so in depth. You like nothing is really left up to interpretation as much. But when you're watching a movie, they have to, Harry Potter, like you were talking about, Jay, like we knock Harry Potter some of the movies because we've read the books, and then you watch the movies, like they leave so much detail out. But I think that's kind of like the art form of a movie is like they can only jam so much into a
Yeah.
hour and a half, 2 hours, even three sometimes. That like it does leave a lot. Like you really have to pay attention to every scene, mannerism, like to pick up on different things. So because they can't really unpack everything. So yeah, I think that would have been interesting. Even like the daughter and Mike, like they're kind of back and forth. I thought was pretty interesting. I
Another
thought
roof.
it would have been interesting to go through a little bit more, but I think like with Riggin, like based on the interactions like with his daughter and his ex-wife, like you have to kind of assume a lot. Like you don't know if because the character you see on screen, he's seems like a good guy. He's a little beaten down by like I think the Hollywood world and like obviously the stress of this play. There's a little comment towards him cheating, like kind of being like
Yeah.
a partier. So like it's hard to say that because you only see this older version of him. It's obviously can look back in hindsight and see that that wasn't the way to go. So I don't know. I think that was interesting too, just the way those small like slimmers of those relationships kind of painted the bigger picture in it.
And I agree. Like the scene with his daughter, I thought, like Ryan said, I think you said it was your favorite scene, maybe.
Yeah. Mhm.
I agree with that for like a lot of reasons. One, you see like a huge range from both Emma Stone and Michael Keaton as far as like drama acting, but
Oh yeah.
also like that was one of the most intense scenes with like more than just like people being because you see Mike Shiner, Ed Norton, yelling at people and like they get heated with each other, but like this is literally a father and daughter going at it. It's like way more intense. Like there's underlying tones of like love and hate and stuff like that. So I
Hmm.
don't know. I love that scene.
Yeah.
Oh, and then also he goes and gets drunk, and I don't know if you remember, there's like a crazy guy like acting in the alley or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's Bill Camp, if you know him. I had to look it up, so I didn't know him off the
I
top of
don't
my head,
think
but
I
I was
know
like,
what it is.
so I just watched Molly's game the other day,
Oh yeah. I love
and
that game.
so
Mhm.
he's Harlan Eustace. He's the dude that gets in the hole so big, and then Player
Oh
X.
yeah.
But so I was like looking him up because like I know he's in other stuff. He's also in like the Joker. He's in the Night of. If you ever saw that short series on HBO, limited series, whatever they're called. He's
I
in
heard of
Queen's
it, but no, I haven't
Gambit.
seen.
Yeah, like he's in a lot of like he's like one of those no small parts kind of guys. Like where he's in a good lot of stuff, but you wouldn't really know who he is.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I just love that little tidbit that he was in there.
Yeah. That's hilarious. Another thing, just I mean, I said scenes that just made me think of it. How it was basically shot in like one continuous shot almost, which I love. Like 1917's like that war movie,
Mm-hmm.
which does it a little better because there's a couple times in this one where it's like, pans up towards the sky and then it comes back down. It's like a different time of day or whatever, which still technically like the same thing, but like I wouldn't like every movie to have that same style. But this one worked so well, I think, because you're kind of seeing it through Riggins' point of view like the whole time basically. So you're kind of following him as the camera does, right? So I love that. I thought that was really cool. I really enjoyed that. I thought it worked like super well because otherwise, like I'm thinking about it, and if it was shot in just like a regular way, I don't think it would have like translated as well. Personally, like I was a big fan of that. That's another thing I really liked about it.
I
Yeah.
agree. Whenever like cinematography or like filming is done differently, I like it. Obviously, I wouldn't want every movie like that. I know we watched
Right.
what was it, Memento, where they start kind of at the end and work their way back. Like I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't want every movie to do that, but you see the one or two that do it well, and it's like you really kind of appreciate the different art styles.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Similar, but not necessarily the same. But I think the way that was shot, I felt like I don't know about you guys, but like the way it was shot, like kind of just the colors, like the contrast of that, like it in New York City, it felt like to me it was like the setting was almost like 1980s, 1970s, something like that. And then they're just
Mm-hmm.
naming like Robert Downey Jr.
Right. Yeah.
I always thought that was kind of funny, and I think that was kind of like brought me back to the fact that it was like, oh no, this is a recent film. It's just kind of the way it was shot, like this kind of like grungy type manner, I think. like kind of showing that side of like Broadway, like
Yeah, I was gonna say, I
all
think the
theater.
backstage rooms at Broadway really show that because they're, they're
Yeah.
basically like bigger, like a little bit bigger closets. Daniel Radcliffe would have fit in perfectly there. Like
Yeah, definitely.
they're very small rooms. Even the hallway to show all the rooms is literally tiny. So yeah, I agree. It kind of looked run down, which it might be in real life. I have no idea.
Right. Could be. I was also gonna say a scene I loved was the one when Reagan went to the bar and there was that big critic from I think the New York Times, and she was
Oh yeah,
kind of like the gatekeeper of all plays, and she
seemed like it though, kind of.
yeah
Yeah.
she was shitting on it, shitting on Reagan because obviously there's like this Hollywood and Reagan and it's ironic I was thinking about it because we're here. I wouldn't say we're critics. We're more
Definitely not.
talking about the movie. But he goes off on critics, which I thought was awesome. Like it was just kind of the whole
Hmm.
like literally just trying, like the art of like trying something, even if you fail, like you're at least trying it. Where she was the opposite and just kind of like I'm gonna do everything I can, and then obviously flash forward to to the very end, you see that she actually wrote a really good review because
Yeah,
the show was
and
great.
she said before she even saw it, she's gonna trash it, which
Right.
is crazy. Like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna ruin you. That's I think then that's when he gets like
Yes.
really wasted
Yeah.
after that.
Well, yeah.
I think so too.
Well, and I think another thing that led into his heated altercation with her, right, is the whole like she's like, you're a celebrity, you don't do Broadway, you're trying to ruin my Broadway and all this stuff. And like I think that's like his insecurities, right? Like everyone knows him as Birdman. He's a celebrity because he's Birdman, and he's like, no, like I'm putting my heart and soul in this, like I'm more than Birdman.
Yeah,
And so I think that literally just dug in deep with him. Well, and obviously he spent like all his money trying to make that show, but
right.
I wonder too
Yeah,
how much that scene of him being like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna go over there and talk to her," like how much that interaction played into her writing a good review. Because I would assume it held some weight, like seeing his passion there and like how he put literally like his life savings into that show, and then I would assume subconsciously that made her have a little bit more open mind when like the show actually was really good, as opposed to like only seeing as like I'm gonna trash this.
yeah,
yeah, I'd agree.
definitely. And like kind of how the play ended, which I guess we can kind of get there. So as the final scene, the one thing I wish they didn't do was it was foreshadowing, right? When Norton first comes on, and he's like, "Don't point that gun at me." Like I saw that orange trigger, like you're not making me scared at all, or whatever. And I was like, okay, that could come back later. And then he gets a real gun, obviously, so that they show him loading the gun before he goes down to like his final scene, which I wish they didn't show just that part. Like I wish they just let it be like kind of a surprise because I kind of saw it maybe a little bit where he like I thought he tried to kill. I don't know. Did you guys think he was trying to kill himself, or what do you think there?
I don't know.
I would say yes, but I think he kind of bailed out last second.
Yeah,
Like if that
Okay.
makes sense. Or like, he's on
Yeah.
stage and he was nervous or something.
yeah,
Obviously it's all scripted acting, so who can actually tell? But like I think he was. I
yeah,
don't think he meant to just blow his nose off.
right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I think so too. I'm with you. I think once he like loaded the gun, it became kind of obvious what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Kind of reminded me like a Joker, like the last scene in the Joker when he finally gets on
Hmm.
like, the talk show with Robert De Niro, and obviously it doesn't go well.
Dang.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I think maybe he was like I don't know because he was having kind of this like euphoric like out of body experience. Maybe he was like because they talked about it like his wife I think even or his ex-wife was even like I've never seen you this calm. He's like yeah I've never like been this calm. So I don't know if maybe he
Yeah.
was like, having this sense of peace and he was just kind of
That's
like you know I don't know.
yeah. That's how I was thinking. I was like, because that conversation that he had right before like told me a lot. Because I was like,
Mhm.
clearly that's when everything like came out, like you said about like the possible cheating and everything, and why they didn't make it. And he not that they, obviously made up for all the lost time or whatever, but it did seem like he kind of had peace, like, yeah, like I realize I'm a bad guy, but life goes on kind of thing. And, at this point, kind of done what I've wanted to do, like with the play and everything. And then I was, and I don't think he really made up with Emma Stone at that point either, because I think the last time they talked was that big argument. So he's just like, maybe it's time or whatever. So I think he was, but I think that was his intention to end it, but because he's kind of a psycho and has like an alter ego or whatever, I think that maybe like kind of played into it. So where like, it just hit his nose instead. But I'm glad that did happen like that, because I don't know how I would have felt if he actually did do it. But I like that part. But yeah, the only thing for me, I just wish they didn't show him like loading it beforehand. But then it kind of does add to like that last conversation. But at the end, yeah, I don't know. I just kind of wish they didn't do it. But still interesting there. But then obviously as he wakes up in the hospital or whatever, then Emma Stone's there and they seem to make up for the. I mean, not like everything is forgiven or whatever, but obviously she still cares about him because she was there for him, like waiting and whatnot. Or I think she walked in later, but either way, you can tell she still cares for him and everything. But I guess we can kind of jump into the final scene. So obviously he goes in the bathroom, whatever, the bird's waiting for him. I forget what he says exactly, but then it looks like he jumps up, and then Emma Stone comes back in and looks down thinking like, oh shit, he jumped. But then she looks up and like starts smiling. So my opinion, like, and I want to hear what you guys think, but I don't think he actually did jump out the window. I think that like symbolizes him like, letting go of like that, that internal struggle of having to be like that guy that we were talking about earlier. Like now he's, has found like a sense of peace and like fun with this new project and everything. Like he's not just down on himself all the time, like, depressed and everything about not being Birdman anymore. Like I think he's like letting that part go now. And I don't think Emma Stone's really there, obviously seeing a bird in the sky, a Birdman in the sky, but I think that just like showed it. That's what I thought, but wanted to see what you guys thought about it.
I like that. I honestly, I didn't have a great answer, but I think that makes perfect sense. And honestly, I think that's, yeah, kind of like him closing the chapter of like trying to be this superstar, need to be the center of attention, to like putting his work into something else and really like having it pay off and being proud of it. So yeah, I could definitely see that.
Yeah, I agree. So like I think it's like one, the weight was lifted, but also two, they said they're holding prayer services. Everyone loved him. He's front page of the newspaper they kept showing. And so I also kind of took it as like he's back on top of the world. Like he's back, and like his alter ego kept saying like, you should be above them, which like I
Mm-hmm.
think in his mind he did, obviously it's his alter ego, so he did believe that to a certain extent. So I think, he rose above it again, like, so that's kind of how I took it, back on top of the world, but also like you said, like, the weights lifted from his shoulders. He made it. He did what he set out to do, and he's not Birdman. He's more than that.
Yeah.
Side, it was a hilarious. I think my favorite scene, the funniest scene, was when this is obviously the era of like Avengers, like kind of being like on the forefront. There was like he was watching like he had the news on or something. And they were talking about Robert Downey Jr. like either how much he made or something, and like his alter ego said something like I forget what he said exactly. It was hilarious. Like you're way more talented than
Yeah.
it was. I enjoyed that because he's a former kind of superstar superhero, but not catching this craze like the Avengers are. So I wonder if a lot of former superheroes feel that same way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it'd be right in that time period too, because like Avengers, the first one came out in 2012, second one came out in
Well, yeah.
2015. So the movie was shot in probably 2013, released in 2014 or something like that. So that would be literally peak Iron Man.
Right. Right.
Yeah, definitely. And like I think one of you guys said it, but he really did do three different roles in one movie, which is crazy. Like
Yeah,
he did himself, like, as the depressed guy, but then he did Birdman, obviously not as often. And then he did it on stage guy. So that's crazy. Like I said, Edward Norton was my favorite performance probably, but I think Keaton was the most impressive, obviously, because he had to do all that. And it was like three totally different things. But yeah, I think him just in the bird costume or whatever was definitely like the comic relief. Like it did need at times because it was, there's depressing movies out there and everything. And this was, for sure in that realm, but also I think it tied in those other elements well to drag everything down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
I also think Michael Keaton's performance was really good because he's probably on screen what, like 90% of the time. There's very few
Yeah.
scenes. It's like pretty much the two, maybe three scenes where it's Ed Norton and Emma Stone, but those are
On the
like the
roof.
three.
And that's, yeah.
Yeah, and then the first time like Shiner comes in the dressing room. So yeah, three scenes, but like,
Yeah.
all of them maybe, 2, 3 minutes long, or I mean, not very long. I don't know if it's actually 2 or 3 minutes, but so besides that, it's all Michael Keaton,
Yeah.
and he killed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything that because I mean, Tom, that you were kind of the lowest of us, but anything that we like skipped over that you didn't really like about it or anything, or just
Mm,
maybe wasn't like, you know, cup of tea kind of thing?
yeah, it wasn't even that I didn't really like it. I think I did enjoy it. I think kind of opposite of you, JD. This is one I feel like I won't rewatch for a while. Um, I don't know. Maybe that's just to like kind of let it like marinate a little bit before I watch it again. I don't have any like I don't know. I don't have any like big criticisms of it. I think yeah, I think it was really good. It was really interesting. I think kind of like you were saying, Ryan. I think the only thing I could say is just having a little bit more, like almost wanting a little bit more of like the story.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's, I think it ended really well as far as like not seeing that, but just seeing a little bit more of like his past life, or even like a little bit more substance, like you said, in the middle with like the relationship with his daughter, or kind of like the coming together of the show, because that I thought that was pretty entertaining and like a cool look at like the other side of theater, like seeing those like previews, which I had really nothing,
Yeah, I had no
I didn't
idea
really know
about those.
anything about that. So um, maybe a little bit more relationship, like showing the relationship with like Shiner and him, and how that came along. But overall, it was just I just kind of had it as a 72. I think it was really really strong. Obviously, we said really well acted. Just not my favorite movie I've seen. Like not enough there to push it into the eights, which I know is pretty high for
Yeah,
us.
for sure. Yeah, I know. And I think that's fair for sure. But yeah, I mean, overall, like we said, 86, 84, 72 across the board. That gives it an average of 80.7. In terms of where that puts it on our list with our others, it's right in the middle between the Fins and I Care a Lot. So yeah, I mean, I actually haven't seen the Fablemans, but I Care a lot. So I think that's good company. That it's right around. So I think we would all recommend it for sure if anyone hasn't seen it. Like we said, about 10 years old right now, which is crazy. But yeah, definitely recommend it. Any other closing remarks on Birdman?
No, I mean, I really liked it. Like I said, I'm gonna watch it again. I'm kind of excited for it.
Yeah,
I
for
know Tom is
sure.
not, but I am.
Yeah.
I will rewatch it at some point.
Cool. Well, yeah, so that does it for this week's pick. I think Tom, you know what we're going to be watching, so everyone can watch along with us for next week's show.
Yeah. So you guys ready for my pick for next week?
Yep.
All right.
Absolutely.
So for next week, as Ryan said, we have to get to 10,000 movies. So we got to knock them all, a lot of them out. So I don't know. I've seen this movie once. It was a while ago. I don't know how excited you guys will be for it, but the movie choice is also from 2014. It's on HBO Max, Edge of Tomorrow, starring Tom.
Oh,
Okay.
Um,
heard
yeah,
good things about that.
yeah, I've seen it once, but it was probably 6 or 7 years ago. So I'm excited to dive into it again. Um, that's my pick for next week. As far as that goes, do we want to go around the horn and kind of talk about what we've been watching, maybe what we're looking out for in theaters here in the next couple weeks?
Yeah, kick us off.
Yeah. Show wise, so I have been watching. My girlfriend and I kind of go back and forth. picking shows. It's her pick right now. We are watching the Mindy Project. You guys have ever?
Oh,
Oh yeah,
yeah, from The Office, Mindy
Yeah,
Minnie Kaling.
Kaling or whatever.
Yeah,
Yep.
Minnie Kaling.
yeah. We're on season 3.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
really, really liked season 1 and 2, and I think it's just running out of gas a little bit. But it's pretty funny. Cats, like a lot of big name kind of cameos. Ed Helms in there. Pretty much the whole cast of the show The League is on there in like
Oh, wow.
recurring roles. So yeah, we're about halfway through that. Pretty solid, I will say. But what about you guys? What have you been watching?
Uh,
Uh, or go
yeah,
ahead, Jay.
yeah. So I don't know if you guys are all watching. I think Ryan is, but I'm watching The Last of Us every
Oh, fuck yeah.
Sunday on HBO. Great
Love that
series
show.
following Joel and Ellie based off the video games. Never played them, but I wish I did.
Yeah.
Um, Other things. I mean, I saw the new season of You came out or is coming out. I saw the first 2 seasons. I don't know if I'll watch it. I mean, I feel obligated because I saw the first two,
That was
but
pretty good shit. I watched
well,
the first two
and
seasons too.
yeah, and I feel like that's gonna be one of those shows where it's the same thing every season, just like
Like
gets
crazier.
more, yeah, more intense every season.
Right.
So I just don't like those shows. I think they get real repetitive, but I might watch it. We'll see.
Yeah.
Oh, and then Yellowstone. I want to catch up with all because I hear Yellowstone's great. Then there's like 1917 or something, or 1912, and like an
Like
18 one.
spin-off prequel of it or whatever.
Yeah, I know there's a few before the actual Yellowstone or something. So I've heard great things, so I'll probably watch those.
Yeah. I have been watching, I actually have watched You. Just finished that. They split it this third season in parts, which is bullshit. I hate that they are doing that now with a couple shows. But I mean, like you guys said, it's entertaining in a weird way. Um, but it does kind of get repetitive at times, but it's like one of those where I mean it follows a Netflix formula, right? Like they have certain things about it where they know it's going to go like super viral and pick up steam and everything, and they just have like a recipe to like be able to like continue it for as long as possible. But it's one of those like depending how the second half goes, like it needs to know when to quit, and I hope it quits at the end of this next half. So I watch that. I also, yeah, like GD said, watch The Last of Us. That's my favorite thing on TV right now, or like just across the board. It's obviously a zombie show, but doesn't there's not that many zombies in it like a lot of
No,
the time,
there's
which
not.
I like. Which I'm not like a zombie like fanatic or anything, but it's just like a really good storytelling. So that's what I like about it. And then I think JD watched this, but Full Swing on Netflix. It's like
Yeah.
behind the scenes of PGA Tour. That's like one of my favorite sports like documentary type things I've seen in a long time. Like it was awesome to watch.
Yeah, I love Full
So
Swing.
highly recommend that to anyone that's even just like a timid golf fan. Like it's really good.
Yeah, I agree. I really like Full Swing. And if you don't think you like the PGA Tour, it's kind of like the Formula Drive to Survive, Formula One Drive to Survive, and all the other stuff they do. It just like makes you like it so much more when you actually watch it because you're like, oh, dude, I know what that guy does in his free time, kind of, or whatever. But I really
Yeah,
liked it.
it's like unfiltered that you like don't like again like they're still on camera, but like it's the most personal that you can get with like athletes. It seems like that you're going to be
Yeah,
able to see in just like the regular eye. So I really enjoyed it. I thought that did a great job on it.
yeah. And I mean Netflix kills it with the social media marketing too. Like you see everyone talking about it. I swear, I'm not a big fan of Netflix originals, but ever since Bird Box, which I hate that movie, I'm not even gonna start. But like everyone posted that movie for like 2 weeks, and the
I think it
blindfold
was more than
memes.
that. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like
the blindfold memes lasted like damn near a whole year. I think.
yeah, it was forever. And then, I watched it. I'm like, why does anyone post this movie's horrible? But they do that. Like, that's like you were talking about the formula. When they have a show, they have to have 2 to 3 scenes every episode that could go viral. Like, that's
Yeah,
in the writing.
We
yeah, it's a requirement.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we talked about that where it's like Netflix knows what's gonna get people to like put it on their Instagram story. It's
Yeah.
like that magnetism of like, oh well, this person posted it. Like I need to watch this too, so I know what's going on, what to talk about. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, they're
exactly.
pretty good about that, and I'm glad you guys like Full Swing because that's on my list. And hopefully, I know we talked about it the other day. We've got Netflix is coming out with the quarterback show with Patrick Mahomes to
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins and Marcus Mariota.
Yeah.
Just star
Just
studded.
random random group of guys. I don't know
Freaking
how they
good.
like pick that. I mean, they are like three guys that are kind of in different, you know, I guess phases of their career, but just like in the league right now. Like obviously Mahomes is the best. Kirk Cousins is like solid and better than people give him credit for, I think. And then Mariota's like, had, was a huge draft like prospect and everything, and then kind of fell off the face of the earth and then gained a little bit of relevancy this year. So it is interesting that scale that they chose.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you could pick three more random quarterbacks.
Right.
Yeah.
So
My
is
hot
it,
take with that show is Mahomes will be the most boring to follow. Not because he's a boring person or anything, but I mean, like everyone knows he's good. Like you know what he does in his free time, like or not in his free time, but like he's working and he's just a freak athlete, stuff like that. But like Kirk and Marcus Mariota, wild cards.
that's the thing, though. I
Yeah.
think all
Who
Yeah,
knows what's going to happen here?
is like being a Titans fan. Like Mariota was kind of known for being like the most boring player. Like he never
yeah.
talked. Like all he did was practice, and like obviously we know Kirk Cousins was boring athlete ever too. I think it'll be interesting. I mean, I'm like you guys said, Netflix crushes like the documentaries, so it's NFL. It's gonna be good. I'm gonna watch it for sure. So
Yeah,
I'm
I'll watch that.
Yeah.
but you guys have anything on your calendar for movies coming to theaters? I know it looks like there's not much coming out for the next couple of weeks, but anything that's maybe circled for like the spring, even into the summer that you're 100% going to see.
For me, honestly, not till like late March. The fourth John Wick's coming out, which I got onto that game late, but I love those movies. Those are awesome. Another like sneaky one, which I think it says it's theaters, but I think it's technically just Apple TV, but it might be both, or Apple Plus, whatever it's called. But Tetris, I don't know if you guys saw that preview, but that looked really
Yeah.
good. So yeah, I'm excited for those two in the next like month or two at
Yeah.
least.
Yeah. I'm behind on it, but I'm gonna watch Creed 3 probably. I know Ryan mentioned John Wicks, and those are like the epitome of action movies. Like
Oh yeah,
they're nonstop, but I love the John Wicks as well, so I'll watch that. I think the Mario movie comes out like a week after John Wick, so I'll probably see that too.
yeah, I'm pumped for that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm with you guys on those. I think Creed 3, I've seen Creed 1 and 2 in theaters, so I feel like I'm kind of obligated now for them to take my money for Creed 3. Those movies I love because like second you sit down, you know exactly what you're gonna get, and you still like it. Like, I think that's
Yeah,
like John Wick. You probably know
same thing. Yep.
yeah.
he kicked the shit out of some guys, and you're like, that was still good. So that's
That's
how
an understatement.
I
he,
mean,
he
yeah.
actually literally, I think, has done that exact thing in at least one of the movies. So
yeah. Well, that's
that's
how
crazy.
Creed is. Like they set up the storyline within like the first 3 minutes, and you're like, oh, okay, like this guy with like his family friend, they're gonna end up hating each other, they're gonna have to fight for the belt, like Max Kellerman. It's like that's exactly what happened, and it's like that was freaking awesome. So I probably need to see Creed 3. Outside of that, Air, I'm really excited about.
Yeah.
I think it's April 5th. That's kind of the Shoe Dog story. Or sorry, Shoe Dog is the Phil Knight's book, which I read a couple years back. One of the best books I've ever read. Really good read. And that is Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, Jason Bateman. Like I think that's gonna be awesome. Really, this is kind of a different side that Shoe Dog didn't really talk much about Michael Jordan, oddly enough. And this is kind of like the pursuit of Michael Jordan and making him like basically the face of Nike. I think that's really like an interesting topic. I know we all watched
Yeah.
Dance or not Last Dance, Showtime last year, which was kind of like
Yeah.
Both, but yeah.
yeah, which was Showtime Lakers. I think that era of NBA is super interesting.
So good.
So yeah, I'm super pumped. That's probably my number one.
And I'm glad, like, as far as I know, like they're not even like obviously real Jordan's not in it, but like even like a character playing him isn't in it. Like I like that it's not focused on like him actually in the movie. It's like mainly his parents, it seems like, and just like the pursuit and getting Nike like off the ground. I think it's really
Yeah.
cool.
I also think like there haven't been that many bad like business movies. Like if you make a business movie, like
Oh, I love them.
Wolf of Wall Street's, I think all of one of our top like five probably favorites ever. It's definitely in my
Yeah.
top five. like Big Short.
The Big
Yes,
Short. I was gonna say that.
I've been looking for that to rewatch somewhere. It's never on anything.
No.
I know you can like rent it on Amazon, but like I just like when it comes across like something I'm already paying for. But I've been dying to see that again because I haven't seen that in so long.
I actually rented that like 3 weeks ago and watched it.
Really,
Yeah,
I
Really?
love
love
that
that
movie.
movie.
I haven't seen it. Yeah, same thing. I think it was on Netflix probably like 7 years ago, and I have like
Then
not
it was dropped off the face of the earth.
right. One of these days, keep an eye out if you're listening at home. Let us know.
Uh, yeah, I love Air. I'm excited for that. My hot take, well, I don't know if it's a hot take. My fan take will be I think Michael Jordan will make a cameo in it, but I don't think he'll be playing basketball. I think it'll be like in a casino or something. I think he'll just be
I
sitting there
like that.
rolling dice.
On the golf.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of like I don't know if you guys seen the Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith.
Oh yeah.
The guy that's based off of like walks past him at the end. I mean, obviously he's
Oh
not
yeah.
recognizable as Michael Jordan, like no one is, but um, like something like that where like he's like there, doesn't like draw like a big scene or something, but yeah, like him just like playing craft or something. I think that'd be awesome.
I think that'd be sweet. Yeah.
Yeah,
I see that too. I'm excited.
Pumped.
cool. Yeah, excited for next week too. We got
Edge of tomorrow.
I was gonna say I already forgot about it, but Edge of Tomorrow, Tom Cruise, and Emily Blunt, I think. Is
Yeah,
that
Emily
who else?
Blunt.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
The
yeah, everyone out there, yeah, feel free to join us with that. I think, yeah, we'll record next week with our thoughts there. And then, yeah, JD will have a new one for us after that.
Yeah.
awesome. Well, thanks
And
everyone for tuning in.
listen with 1979.
1979 as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
That's next
1979.
week.
Yep. And
Yep.
then join us on this quest to 10K.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we'll see you guys next week.
All right. Thank